Yes, Chair. I'll just let you know once it's live.
Okay, thank you.
We are now live, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. So, good evening, everybody, all members of the committee and support staff, and for anybody that may be watching. This meeting is being live streamed. It's also being recorded for later publication on the council's website via YouTube. Just the usual reminders, please. Can I just ask you to make sure your phones are turned off or put onto silent? And we'll do. I think we've probably got used to it now. If people want to indicate to speak, if they can put the hand icon on, and so we can know that way. Okay, so we'll make a start then. That was item number 1. Item number 2, to receive apologies for absence. I've had apologies from Councillor Lloyd, and he's been substituted by Councillor Pomfret. Do we have any others?
I haven't received any others, Chair.
Okay then, thank you. Item 3 is to confirm the minutes of the meeting on the 6th of October. Is everybody happy with that? If I don't see any hands go up, I'll assume we are. Okay, thank you. And item 4 is to receive any declarations of disclosable pecuniary and other interests in accordance with the members' code of conduct. That's if they're not already printed on the agenda, or you may, if you become aware of them during the meeting, let us know. No. Okay, thank you. Item 5, are any declarations of contact where people may have been in touch with you about any of the applications? Councillor Pandare.
Hello, yes, I received the email and also phone conversation for item number 2 for taking this application to the committee, and I did not indicate my intention for this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Anybody else? No. Okay, in which case that takes us onto the 2 applications we have in front of us tonight. I believe that we do have speakers on both items, so we'll just go through it as we are then. Item number 1 is 302 Lutterworth Road, Nuneaton. Jackie?
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Let me just share my screen. Okay, the proposed you can see it, sorry. The proposed outbuilding is to be sited within the rear garden of number 302 Lutterworth Road. This property has recently been extended and is a 2-storey detached dwelling originally built in 1967 to 68 and is located on the corner of Lutterworth Road and Thornhill Drive. The site as a whole is a large regular shaped plot. Surrounding this are dwellings of varying age, type and design. To the side of the property is a verge owned by Warwickshire County Council and which has an electricity substation within close proximity to the proposed new building. The proposed new building is shown on the PowerPoint hatched on there. The proposal is for a detached outbuilding for storage within the rear garden. It requires planning permission because it's over 2.5 metres in height within 2 metres of the boundary with neighbouring properties. The proposal is to be L-shaped with a minimum length of 4 metres and the maximum length of 8 metres and width of between 4 and 9 metres. It is proposed to have a dual pitch roof with an eaves height of 2.5 metres. It states 2.1 metres in your agenda, but the eaves is actually 2.5 metres and a ridge height of 3 metres. The photographs on the slide show the property from Thornhill Drive approaching from Lutterworth Road. The blue arrows on the plan show roughly the position these were taken from. Photograph 1 shows the side of the existing house as now extended and the fence to the rear garden. Note on that photograph the position of the electricity substation. The photograph to the front was again taken from Thornhill Road and shows the area of garden beyond the fence line that the proposal is to be situated. This photo shows the side of 62 Thornhill Drive, which you can just about see the garage in brick to the side. And again, the substation is shown on the drawing as a square in close proximity to the proposed outbuilding. So I've tried to sort of locate the substation so you can see whereabouts it is in relation to the slide. This application has been reported to committee at the request of Councillor Gutteridge. There have been objections from 2 residents of 2 addresses expressing concerns of how the garden will be accessed for the proposed work, concerns that the outbuilding could be used as a bungalow, that sustainable drainage should be used, and that a garage in this location was previously objected to by Highways and was removed from a previous application for extensions to the property. If approved and the proposed works is accessed over the highway verge on Thornhill Drive, then this will require the consent of Warwickshire County Council Highways. In relation to concerns about the outbuilding being used for a bungalow, if members approve the application, it is considered that it would be acceptable to condition that the outbuilding was to be used purely ancillary to the existing dwelling and not as a separate property. In regards to the comments about a garage previously objected to by Highways, the proposal is described just as an outbuilding, and whilst it has a garage door, the depth of the building behind this is not enough to fit a car in. In any case, if this was to be used as a garage, it would require a drop curb from Thornhill Drive and again require access over Warwickshire County Council land, both of which would require permission from Warwickshire County Council Highways and, according to the comments on the previous application, would unlikely be granted due to highway visibility. In regard to the use of sustainable drainage, as this is only a householder application, this could not be considered. Let me just go to the next slide. The blue arrows on screen shows the direction of each of the proposed elevations. The plans in the middle shows the L shape of the outbuilding. The overall dimensions on the proposed outbuildings are shown in red. You can just see 62 Thornhill Road to the top of the coloured plan and the neighbouring property 300 Lutterworth Road to the side of 302. Just for clarity, the coloured plan shows only the original footprint of the original house, not as now extended. This is this plan here that I'm referring to. The middle coloured plan is a sketch I did for the presentation to committee of the original house extension a few years ago, just to indicate the size of the extensions of the house at the moment. The square is the original garage years ago, which you can just about see there, which would have been demolished as part of the extensions. The plan on the left is an application being considered separately for amendments to the original approved house extension, which is partly with the addition of a utility room. So that was what was originally approved on the house, and this is another application we've got separately. The additional part is that part there, but I'm showing you this just basically to show you where the previous garage was on both of those plans. Hopefully you can see on the laser pen and where the garage is now. So it basically shows where the house is extended up to. It means from the extended house to the nearest part of the proposed outbuilding, there is 11.4 metres between distance of garden. The key issues to assessing the determination of this application is the impact on visual amenity and residential amenity. Despite being in the rear garden, due to its corner plot, the outbuilding will be visible from Thornhill Drive. However, it's set 6 metres from the footpath, and with its relatively low eaves height of 2.5 metres and low ridge height of 3 metres, It is considered that the impact on visual amenity is acceptable and would not detract from the character of the area or be intrusive to dominate the existing property or area. It's considered, therefore, that it meets with paragraph 13 of the Sustainable Design and Construction SPD in terms of visual amenity. In terms of residential amenity, only 300 Lutterworth Road and 62 Thornhill Drive are likely to be impacted upon. Number 300 Lutterworth Road is that one, is the neighbour to the side. The side wall of the proposed building is adjacent to the end of this property's garden. As you can see, that's their garden there. There are no views direct from the proposal to this property, as the views would be to the rear of the applicant's house. So the view that way is this one here. There is a distance from the front of the proposed building to the back of number 300 of 22 metres. In addition, the rear of this neighbour's property is an extension, so it does not have the same protection as original windows. Even if there had been direct views, it would have complied with the 20-metre distance from window to window set out in the council's SPD. The proposal is set off the boundary by 700 mm all around, and the roof on this side is hipped away from the neighbour's garden. That's the view from number 300's garden, so you can see that's where the boundary would be, and that's where it's hipped away. Whilst the building will be above the fence line, which is shown on the elevations, due to its relatively low height, it's considered that it will not result in an oppressive or overbearing sense of enclosure to either the house or the garden of number 300, and therefore will not have a detrimental impact on this property. In relation to the neighbour to the rear, which is 62 Thornhill Drive, which, as I say, you can see in that photo there, the side of it, and it's shown on the plan there. The side of this property has no windows to be affected, and as this neighbour's house is slightly angled to it, it will not impact on rear windows. Neither will it impact on the private amenity space closest to the rear of the house. In addition, it will be the eaves that will be the closest to this house, and the ridge is further away. That is the elevation that they will see from their property. And again, there is a 700 mm gap between the boundary and the outbuilding. It is considered a detrimental impact on this property. In conclusion, it's considered that the proposal is in keeping with policy and will not be detrimental to neighbouring properties or to visual amenity. Therefore, the recommendation is of approval subject to the conditions as printed. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll just wait for you to. Are you leaving that up, or
do you prefer it to be left up in case there's any points of reference?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Jackie. Yeah, leave it up just in case there's questions about it. We do have one speaker, Councillor Guttridge. Councillor Guttridge, the egg time will start when you do. I assume we still have an egg timer, Kelly. Yeah.
Yes, we do, Chair.
Okay then, Councillor Guttridge.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Planning Committee. I'm rather perturbed with the officer's presentation, but I shall come to that later. I wish to speak against the proposal for the development of the detached building in the back garden of 302 Lutterworth Road. I've had many conversations with concerned residents of Whitestone, and I've even had them on my doorstep against the proposed development. Social distancing was observed. The proposed development is over intensive for the size of the property garden, and if passed, I could easily see it be confirmed to living accommodation. I'd just like to say that the plan that the officer put up later does cover the whole width of that plot. And I am reliably informed that Warwickshire County Council do not own the grass strip. It is owned by Nuneaton and Bedworth Council, because I have asked the County Councillor and I've asked Nuneaton and Bedworth. So I'll carry on now. There is no access to the back garden from the front of the property. So I presume it would be from the land on the side of the property, which I believe is owned by the council and maintained by Glendale to a very good standard. The access is fenced in by a newly erected fence and is off the main Thornhill Drive, which is one of the main roads into the estate. And we are proposed to have 621 houses soon going through that. If planning is passed, I would hope the residents would not have to suffer with the disruption with the various tradespeople needing to access the site over the strip of land. I would hope an additional condition could be put in that they keep the tree in the garden, and they also contact Western Power before any developments due to the very close proximity of the substation, and maintain the grass area in what we have been accustomed to recently. Thank you.
That's okay. Thank you, Councillor. So, members of the committee, does anybody have any points of clarification they wish to hear? No? Okay. In which case, can I just confirm we don't have any... Sorry, Councillor Pomfret, is it point of clarification? Councillor Pomfret? I'll just try again. Councillor Pomfret, can you hear me? And did you have a point of clarification?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, yes.
Councillor Guttridge, you say that the strip of land which contains this power box belongs to Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council. That's been officially confirmed, has it, by officers of the authority?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there's nobody else, can I move the recommendation, which is to grant permission subject to the conditions printed on the agenda? Is that seconded? Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Does any member wish to speak? Oh, you're here now, Councillor Tromans. Councillor Tromans.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, great stuff. So looking at the plans that we've got displayed here in front of us, I've just got a query first before I raise some concerns. I can see how the elevation on the very left of the plans that are shown is what will be seen from the neighbour's garden. But it appears that the elevation that's at the top right of this series of plans here is what will be seen from over the road, and that's not actually quite the case. The elevation that will be seen from over the road is the one with the garage door in. Can I just check that's correct with the officer?
Jackie?
Yeah, the elevation that we seen from over the road is the elevation that's got the arrow that swings at 90 degrees. It's the one that the garage door shows in. Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I was trying to show the elevations as you would see them from where they were, from whereabouts they are seen.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. Okay, so that brings me on to my concerns, which is, I'm looking at what's next to it, which is the helicopter view of the road, the kind of the large scale map, and it says 302 on there. And basically what we're going to have here on this plot, which is a very large plot, admittedly, is we're going to go from something that could have perhaps not even a tenth of the area to something that will go from the very, if you look at the box that's got 302 in, which is the main house, it's going to be a full width extension across there and all the way up to filling out the whole of the width of that plot and depth of it to the back end of the small shaded, the small square that's the same colour as the box that 302 is. So that's the size of the house that's going to be there. And then we've got this relatively short distance to what appears to be a kind of a bungalow with a garage built into it, with a garage door, which I'm not sure where it goes to, because there's going to be no access directly to that and no way to drive a car through 302 when it's as it is now, much less when it's been extended. So that kind of implies that really what we're getting is, in incremental stages by salami tactics, an application to not only build over a very large proportion of a garden, but also to have what appears to be a bungalow being created at the end, that there's going to be an obligation on us or the county to allow a drop curb to facilitate it. I thought we weren't able to allow people to cover that much of their plot anymore and build over their garden, and B, effectively use their gardens to create another house. Perhaps the officer could just touch on what planning regulations say about that. I'm also a bit concerned that if the council owns this strip of land here, what's the obligation on the council to allow people to just access it and park lorries and leave building materials on there, which they'll have to do, otherwise they'll be blocking Thornhill Drive, do additional building works for a landlocked property. To me, it seems like far too much development on one plot. It seems to be creating a separate bungalow that's even got a drive facing where the road would be, but apparently can't get an application for drop curb. I don't want us to be being faced with fait accomplis all the time. So maybe if we can just get some reassurance from the officer that if we agree this, it doesn't bind us into having to agree to separate the properties and give road access in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure about fait accompli. I don't think that's a fair description of how this committee works, but Jackie, can you just cover a couple of those points, and I might have missed some others, but one in regard to Councillor Troman's thing about legislation. I'm pretty sure there's more recent legislation that's actually allowing residents and applicants to develop more within their own curtilage. And just to clarify about the ownership of the verge, because it's been said that somebody at Nuneaton and Bedworth has said it's ours, but I think you did say it belongs to the county. Thank you.
Yeah, in relation to obviously new permitted development rights are letting you do more and more to houses in terms of permitted development, e.g. without requiring planning permission, but the conversion of a outbuilding to a standalone bungalow would not be one of them. It would require consent, and if we approved it, we could say we could condition it to say that this had to be used ancillary to the house. That doesn't mean that you could at a later date turn it into what we would call a family annex, but it would have to be linked direct to the house. And if they wanted to use it as a separate bungalow, then they would need to apply for planning permission to do that, and then we can consider it at that point. In terms of the drop curb, that would require permission from Warwickshire County Council Highways, bearing in mind that a couple of years ago when we had the house extension, that they objected to having a garage there, which meant having a drop curb and an access across the verge. They objected to that because of highway visibility. There's no guarantee that they wouldn't if applied for again, but obviously we've got to go on what Warwickshire County Council have told us before. From what my understanding was, the land belonged to Warwickshire County Council Highways. I could be wrong on that, but we do actually, councillor said about us actually mowing the land. We do that for some of Warwickshire County Council highway land anyway. But no matter what, notwithstanding whoever owned it, the applicant would need to get consent for going across that, be it either for just temporary access for building it or for permanent access. And that would be something we would have to look at the time. If it was Nuneaton and Bedworth land, as I say, I can't comment on what Land Asset would say about that. Has that answered all your points? I think it has, as far as I can tell from what I've ticked off.
Okay, thanks, Jackie. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. I remember the original application 2 years ago, and I wasn't happy with it then, and I'm not happy with this application either. I believe it will be over intensive use of the land. It's not exactly a great vista now as you drive past it with the additional extension if you're going up Thornhill Drive onto Lutterworth Road. And you will still see this proposed extension above the fence line on Lutterworth Road. And I believe seeing virtually the whole stretch of land there, as seen on the photo, with some kind of development on there, is not in keeping with the area. It's incongruous with the area. That doesn't happen in that particular area in Whitestone. Now, I would draw members' attention to the fact that verge, County Councillor Jeff Morgan, I know for a fact has actually tried to see whether he can put trees in there. I know county councils put trees all over the place anyway as part of their delegated budgets, but he was unable to do so because he was told the land was not in the county council's ownership. Otherwise, there would have been some trees planted there in the tree planting season. I do have concerns about it being used in the future as not ancillary, but I understand that would come back as a separate planning application. But why would we have a garage door opening out on the side if they can't use it as a garage door? I'd be more reassured if that garage door was not part of the design of this proposed annex and was more of a wall with some window features in, so that would give some indication to residents of the true intentions of the developer, of the owner. And if we could, I would prefer to have that tree which is seen there on the photograph. I would like the committee to consider putting on a tree preservation order, because I believe it does have an amenity to the residents of the area. It brightens up the area, and especially if this application is going to go through, although I will not vote for it, I believe that it would actually keep some of the original features of the area and break up some of this concrete we're going to put all the way down, or bricks that we're going to put down that area. So I would ask the committee, or I will actually propose as an amendment, that the tree is subject to a tree preservation order, but I won't vote for the substantive item, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Jackie, any points on that, in particular about, it's kind of a bit late today about a TPO, but could you mention about that, please?
Okay. In terms of the TPO, we couldn't just place a TPO on it. We would have to go through the legislation. So we would firstly have to look, we would have to get our tree officer to actually have a look at the tree and go through a various process to see if he considered that it was worthy of a TPO. We'd be looking at the visual amenity, which obviously you can see from the road, but also the species, the type, maturity, etc. So there would be no guarantee that even if we could put emergency TPO on, but we would have to then go through the process of consulting with people. But as I say, there's no guarantee that we would determine the tree as being special enough to TPO. In terms of the garage door, there's only 4 metres behind the garage door, so it would be a very little car. You wouldn't normally be able to get just a normal car behind that garage door. Normally a parking space is 4.8 metres, and you need a little bit more with the garage around it as well. So although there's a garage door there, there's no assumption that it could be used as a garage. And again, if that was the case, it would require a vehicular access across the verge, be it owned by Nuneaton Council or Highways. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Watkins.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, I can see no problem with the proposed development, to be honest with you. And we need to pull things back a little bit and start thinking about what we are supposed to be doing. We are supposed to be looking at what is put in front of us, and the planning application that's put in front of us is what it says. It doesn't say that it's a bungalow. It doesn't say that it's living accommodation. It says that it's storage. The garage door could be for a lawnmower for all I know. I don't care. I'm cared about what is put in front of us. Might be some complications about who owns the land at the side, but they're not asking for a drop curb at the minute. That is not what's being asked for on this application. So the application that is being put forward before us tonight, I'm quite happy with, Chair. So I'm not trying to see into the future, see what it's going to be used as in the future, but as it is, as it stands, I'm quite happy with it. That's all I needed to say. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I just have one question of Councillor Pomfret.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I mean, I don't know why this idea seems to be prevalent that this is just a way of getting a bungalow in the back garden. I don't know where that idea has come from. I think we're on a bit of dodgy ground here, because there are lots of people in the borough who have gardens, not as big as this one, who, you know, have got buildings in their back garden of a similar nature for which they've had planning permission. No doubt there'll be many more in the future. I can't really think of any reasons which apply to this one which don't apply to other. This is a housing estate. You know, having buildings around the place is part of being a housing estate. I mean, Thornhill Drive there, you can see on the other side of the road, there are actually houses. So this isn't some sort of rural idyll. This is an access road into a large development. I've got no problem with this at all. I do think we ought to take steps where we can to limit its use to that being ancillary. I don't know whether we can, you know, as there is concern that vehicles might be stored in there, whether we can do anything about that. Getting access to the land for road vehicles, which is obviously a concern of members and residents. Well, I think the officers have pointed out, whoever owns the land, it is down to them to either sell it or allow access or use over it or not. So should that arise, that can easily be stopped if that is what opinion at the time is. And drop curb, I can't really see it happening. The visibility is obviously very dodgy because of the power box, and I can't see that disappearing in the next 20 or 30 years. So I can see no reason for not accepting this application. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is any other member wish to speak that's not already spoken? I can see Councillor Troman's indicating again. I'll bring him back in a minute if it's something new. But there was just a couple of things that I wanted to ask Jackie. You've confirmed one of them that I kind of knew about the verge. It doesn't really matter who owns the verge. If they wanted to cross it, they would have to have permission from it. The proposed building is conditioned in the agenda as an ancillary use. They'd need to come back here if it was for something different. The only thing that I might have had a concern about, but looking at the photograph that we can see now, I just wanted to be absolutely certain, Jackie, that the the ground levels would remain as they are, that they wouldn't be built up for this thing to go on, because that might make a difference in the height. We've been caught out with that before. Thank you.
There's no reason to suggest that the ground level would be made up, but we could actually put some form of condition on there that the ground level of the building was provided via condition.
If we can do that, I would suggest that we do that. Just add it in there, regardless of whatever the decision is made on that. Are members happy with that? Yeah. Okay. Councillor Pomfret, did you want to come back?
Yes, please. I did mention in my little contribution about conditioning what sort of use, whether we can condition that it's not used for the storage of road vehicles. I would like, officers' take on that one, please. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Jackie, it seems reasonable to me, but what do you think?
Well, at the moment in time, it couldn't be used for road vehicles because there's no way of getting them on there, because potentially it for all intents and purposes it's landlocked. I'm a little bit uncertain of whether or not we would define not being able to use for vehicles as an actual condition. In terms of conditions, they have to be fair, they have to be related, and they also have to be obviously to cover specific things. I'm not quite sure if a vehicle was to be stored in there, what issues would that would have.
Well, if it can't get a normal length of car in, but you could get a small car in, couldn't you? Somebody might be a collector of bubble cars or something. But again, they need the access across the verge, don't they? So you're suggesting that we couldn't add that as a condition?
We probably could do, but I'm just wondering if that condition, if we approved it and that condition was taken to appeal, because applicants can't just appeal on our determination, but they can appeal on conditions, on whether or not that is a fair condition, that it is demonstrated that there is a need for that condition. Bearing in mind that many outbuildings and garages are used on domestic properties.
Yeah, I understand. Most garages are used for storage now rather than putting cars in, but I'm kind of seeking professional advice on whether it's a fair condition or not.
I would tend to say it wasn't a fair condition because of what it's related to. I don't know whether Ashley would like to come back or Wahida on that from a legal point of view.
I don't think it's a massive issue myself, but okay. Ash or Wahida, do you want to lend any opinion to that?
Chair, just from my perspective, I wouldn't recommend that we move that condition. I don't think it's appropriate. I think in terms of having a vehicle, I don't see how we could sort of enforce that either, if I'm honest. So it's not something I would support.
Okay, thank you. Right, I've got Councillor Watkins indicating. Is it something new, Councillor Watkins?
It is, Chair. Sorry, it's just I meant to say it last time and I didn't. It's just I don't want us to be caught out if this goes ahead. Could there be a condition that if vehicles are driving onto that land at the side and they damage it, that it's put back to a good state of repair when they leave? It's just that we have been caught out in Kingswood recently where that condition wasn't applied. And we've had a bit of a battle to get it, get the ground put right. So that was all I wanted to put on, if possible.
Okay, that's assuming they've got to get permission to go across the land. So again, Jackie, can you help us out with that, or is it a standard one anyway?
Again, I think it would be difficult condition because it's outside of the red line of the application site. If we were the owners, then we would, our land asset team would be asking for any remediation of any damage to the land. That would be separate legislation. It wouldn't be under the planning control.
Okay, okay, I understand that. Right, okay then, it's been moved and seconded to grant planning permission subject to the conditions printed, and it does include that condition about it not being occupied. Because there's been speakers against it, I will ask for people to have the vote. So, Wahida, could you read out the names, please?
Yes, Chair. This is a vote on the motion to grant permission subject to the conditions as printed. Councillor Phillips.
I'm for the recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Gran.
Again, Chair.
Councillor Hancox.
For.
Councillor Pomfret.
For approval.
Councillor Pandaher.
Again.
Councillor Rudkin.
For.
Councillor Sargent.
For.
Councillor Shepherd.
For.
Councillor Smith.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Tromans.
Against.
Councillor Watkins.
For.
And Councillor Wilson.
Against.
That's carried, Chair.
Okay, so that application is approved. Thank you. If we can move on to, I'll just give you a little bit of time, Jackie. But the next item will be item number 2, which is 64 North Avenue, Bedworth.
Thank you, Chair. The proposal is for a 2-storey side extension to the existing property and a single-storey front extension across part of the existing and all of the new. The existing property is a semi-detached dwelling in a residential area. The original house has a hipped roof and cream rendering. The houses are of the same design in the avenues, with a mix of semi and terrace properties, with some having extensions. This property has a detached brick outbuilding to the side and a single-storey extension to the rear. I'm just going to enlarge on that photo because I appreciate it. When I took it, it was a very sunny day. Hopefully that makes it a little bit easier to see. There you go. That photograph I've just shown you is the property from the road. As you see, the house is on an angle and set in a semicircular row of houses set off a green area. The property is the end house, so is closest to the road, but set back approximately 6 to 7 metres from the road. That's the property there. The coloured plan on screen shows the extent of the 2-storey element in black hatching, but it doesn't show the 1.3 metre deep single-storey element of the proposal, which will be to part of the existing front and the proposed front, where the front door is and across the new proposed side extension. The 2 elevations shown are the existing front elevation and the proposed. That's the existing elevation, obviously. On the proposed, I draw a line up very roughly there, it would be where the existing house is. This application is being reported to committee at the request of Councillor Pandaher. Members will note that they've received an email from the applicant explaining the need for the additional bedrooms and bathroom at first floor and the new bedroom, utility and bathroom at ground floor. There have been no responses from neighbours. The key issues to assessing the determination of this application are residential amenity, visual amenity and highway safety. The only potential impact of the proposal is on the neighbouring properties, numbers 66 there and 62, which is the attached neighbour, and at the back of them is 35 and 37 Poplar Avenue. In relation to the residential impact on number 66, which is that one, which is the unattached neighbour, this has two side-facing windows. You can just about make them out on the photo, but which are to either a bathroom or understairs at ground level and a landing at first floor. So these are not classed as windows to habitable rooms that must be protected. The proposed extensions would not infringe the front or rear windows of this neighbouring property. In terms of the impact to the garden, there will be an impact to the closest part of the boundary of the garden of this property, of which is to an area at the front and side, serving as a pedestrian access to the rear and therefore not usable space. There's just an access there. However, since the agenda was written, officers have noted that one of the new bedroom windows at first floor, labelled as bedroom 5, this one, will have a window there, and will actually overlook this neighbour's rear garden, relatively close to the rear of this neighbour's property, so hence the most usable space. The distance from the centre of the new proposed first floor rear window to the boundary being 3.7 metres. The MPPF paragraph 127 states that a high standard of amenity should be provided for existing and future users. The Council's Sustainable Design and Construction Supplementary Planning Document, section 11.6, states that first floor windows habitable windows overlooking a neighbour's private amenity space must be at least 7 metres from the boundary. This is approximately 3.7. Therefore, there's a significant shortfall of this distance, meaning that the new window will provide overlooking to this neighbour to the garden area closest to the house. The issue with the first floor bedroom window has been discussed with the agent, who states that the bottom panes of the window could be obscure glazed. This would need also to be up to 1.7 metres from the finished floor level and would need to be non-opening in order not to provide overlooking out of it. This would mean that any opening light would be at a high level and relatively small, which could not be used for escape purposes and have limited ventilation. So it would necessitate alternative means of escape and potentially mechanical ventilation to comply with building regulations. Notwithstanding this, officers consider that we should not be agreeing to obscure glazing offering little views to any new bedrooms. There is also to be a new first floor window overlooking this property, just there, but it's considered that as a bathroom, this will be obscure glazed anyway and not provide any overlooking. In relation to the impact to 62 North Avenue, which is the attached neighbour, the proposed two-storey side extension would have no detrimental impact on this property as it's on the opposite side of the building to it. To assess the impact to this neighbour's front window, which is to a living room, by the proposed single-storey extension, which is across the front, plotting a 60-degree line from the middle of this neighbour's window, as per our adopted guidance, shows this window is not infringed. The impact to this neighbour is therefore considered acceptable. Numbers 35 and 37 Poplar Avenue are to the rear of the property, and the proposed side extension is further away than the main part of the existing property to these neighbours, and the garden of these properties in any case is 33 metres away. The front single-storey extension will not even be seen from these properties. It's therefore considered that there is no impact to these neighbours. In terms of visual amenity, the slide shows the existing and proposed ground and first floor and existing and proposed front and rear elevations. The darker ones, if you can make that out, are the existing. So this is the existing ground floor, existing first floor, and these are the proposed. These lighter areas within these plans are what is existing, and the rest are the proposed. Again, these are the existing front and rear elevations, and these are the existing proposed front and rear elevations. The properties in North Avenue are of a similar design and have hipped roofs as a key characteristic, as you can see on there. The proposed gable roof, which is shown on the side there, will not be in keeping with this and be very visible from the street scene due to its proximity to the road and is contrary to the council's guidance. 60 and 62 North Avenue, which is this photo here, which is the neighbour and this neighbour, both, as you can see, have side extensions, two-storey extensions with gabled roofs, but these are both set back and subsidiary from the main houses and not as wide as the existing house. And they're also, because they're set well back from the verge and from the road, they're not as visible or noticeable from the street as the applicant's property. Number 24 North Avenue, which is at the other end of the avenue, is in a similar plot to the proposal to the applicant's address. You can see it's located on a similar plot and has a two-storey side extension with a gabled roof and single-storey front extension. However, this extension was approved in 1989 before the introduction of the council's current and actual previous guidance, and therefore it is considered that it does not set a precedent. If this were applied for today, it would likely be refused on the same grounds as the proposal. It is considered that the size of the proposed two-storey extension would be overbearing and not deemed to be in keeping with the scale of the original house or the area. This, along with the proposed single-storey front extension, would mean that the extensions would be over-dominant and incongruous in the street scene, as it would step further forward of the principal elevation and be highly visible due to the location and positioning of the property. This is contrary to Section 13.10 of the Sustainable Design and Construction SPD of the Council and paragraph 124 of the MPPF. The concerns of officers were expressed to the agent and applicant with suggestions to step the extension back or reduce the height to lessen the impact and dominance, but they declined this option in order for it to be heard at committee. In terms of highway safety, whilst there are double gates on the property and a garage, there does not appear to be any parking currently on the property and insufficient room to park off-road in front of the existing garage. However, some form of parking could be provided on the front if required. There is space. In conclusion, it's considered that the proposal would be detrimental to residential amenity in terms of loss of privacy to the garden of the neighbour at 66 North Avenue, and in terms of visual amenity to the street, as it's deemed to be dominant, incongruous and unsympathetic to the existing house and area. Officers appreciate that the family needs are important and a consideration, but that this should not override the reasons for refusal. Officers have tried to work with the agent to offer alternative suggestions, and indeed if a new application was submitted with a smaller massing and being subsidiary and sympathetic to the original house, that some form of extension would likely be acceptable, but that this is not what is being considered at this current time. Therefore, the application is recommended for refusal for the reasons as printed on the agenda and addendum. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. We do have a speaker, Kelly McGuffey. Kelly, once you start the egg timer, will as well.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. Firstly, thank you all for your time. I'm hoping you have all read my email outlining my reasons as to why I think my planning should be approved. I just wanted to add that we have considered moving but we have just struggled through getting a remortgage to do the extension. Only adding a little extra onto our mortgage has been a real struggle. Me and my husband are both self-employed and have to jump through hoops when it comes to lending any money, especially during current situations with COVID. With this in mind, to get a bigger house and bigger mortgage is out of the question. We just simply can't do it. And our house as it stands is not valued enough to give us the money to be able to move to a bigger house. So this extension is the only way we are going to get around our family situation. So hopefully we can come to some agreement. We are happy to make some adjustments. So please, I encourage any feedback for anything we can do to make this happen, as our family life hangs on this decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Kelly. Are there any points of clarification required from members? No? Okay, thank you. In which case, to enable debate to take place, can I move the recommendation, which is to refuse planning permission for the reasons as printed? Is that seconded?
I'll second that, Chair. Councillor Pomfret.
Thank you. And Kelly, that's the council, Kelly. Kelly, we should note that technically we did have contact, I suppose, for the email that was referred to us via the planning officer. So we just note that, please. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Right, is there any member wish to speak? Councillor Pandare.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I think there's an echo there. I'm sure what to do. As the family need more space, and their son is autistic and separate bathroom, which everybody might have read the email. As residential community is known to 6672 North Avenue or 3537 Poplar, as was explained by the planning officer. And there is no detrimental effect on highway safety. And there may be some issues about the window, which we can they can amend it or condition so that they can't be seen to the next door neighbor. But I don't think there's any reason or objection to refuse planning permission. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Thank you, Councillor Pandey. Councillor Watkins.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I won't be supporting the recommendations for this because there was mention of highways, and in the report it says it is considered there will be no detrimental impact on the highway safety. I actually think it's good that residents will be looking to spend money on their properties and also to extend the properties. It'll be good to see 3, 4, 5 bedroom houses within the borough. I honestly can't see the problem with it, to be honest. And it just takes me back to when I put in a planning application for my own. It was so much red tape. I'm just saying that I won't be supporting recommendations for this one. And that's all I needed to say. Thank you.
Councillor Pomfret.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I fully understand, I think, the reasons why the applicant needs this extension. I do have 1 or 2 concerns, though, particularly the one about, is it the 5th bedroom, the one which would need special window arrangements. I'm not too happy about that at all. I'm assuming that really, yeah, I think that really the applicant needs to have perhaps a look at the internal layout so that I don't know, perhaps that could be a bathroom and the bedroom could be somewhere else, I don't know. But I'm very concerned about that. And I'm also quite concerned about the front of the house where, there's a sort of, I don't know how deep it is, but the front of the house is brought forward a bit. I do think that's an issue, which again, any further application would, I think, need to address. So overall, I feel that the applicant is wanting to do something which we could support, but these quite important issues need to be addressed before I would be voting for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other member wishing to speak? Jackie, do you have anything to come back on?
No, Chair, I don't. No.
Okay, in which case the recommendation is as printed to refuse planning permission. I will, because there's been some speaking against it, I will ask Wahida to go through the votes. Wahida?
Thank you, Chair. If you could indicate for or against the recommendation for refusal. Councillor Phillips.
Refusal.
Sorry, voting for or against?
I am voting with the officer recommendation of refusal.
Councillor Grant.
Against. Against.
Councillor Hancox. Sorry,
For.
yes. Councillor Pomfret.
For refusal.
Councillor Pandaher.
Against.
Councillor Rudkin.
For.
Councillor Sargent.
Against.
Councillor Shepherd.
For.
Councillor Smith.
Against.
Councillor Tromans.
For.
Councillor Watkins.
Against.
And Councillor Wilson.
Against.
Chair, that's 6 for 4 and 6 against, so.
Yeah, I agree with those figures, and as chair, my casting vote will be along with the recommendation to refuse planning permission. So that application is refused. They were the only 2 items we had in front of us tonight. So can I thank you all very much for your attendance and declare the meeting closed. And can I just check with Chris that the live streaming can be stopped, please?